Once more, it's time to don your spandex, prime your web shooters and take to the streets. That's right, it's time for a new Spider-Man game. Paired with the release of the film with the same name, The Amazing Spider-Man is Beenox's first foray into the open world. It features city swinging, thug punching and some rather large film spoilers. The game is set after the Amazing Spider-Man film. Leading on from Dr. Connor's research, Oscorp have created a whole bunch of cross-species creations. These cross-species are part human, part animal, and as you'd expect, they escape and cause havoc across Manhattan. As these monsters attack humans, they get infected, eventually turning cross-species themselves. The story itself is all a bit bland, with little to get excited or interested about. Combat is handled by a system similar to that seen in the recent Batman titles. One button for attack and one for dodge. When Spider-Man's Spidey sense triggers, it's time to press the dodge button. Once you've built up a decent combo, you can use Spidey's special moves, which will stick enemies to walls and ceilings with a dose of webbing. The combat is fairly decent. It's not quite as smooth as Batman's, but it's not the worst system out there. The highlight of the combat is the animations. Spider-Man will spin and flick enemies around like they're nothing. He also has an array of sneak attacks up his web shooter. You can crawl across the ceiling, pounce on an enemy and tie him to the ceiling. Quite a lot of your time will be spent indoors, which is a shame. You'll fight thugs in random, forgettable surroundings such as offices and sewers. These areas usually revolve around you clearing out thugs and crawling through air ducts. There's a number of bosses throughout, ranging from copies of the Rhino and Scorpion to big, generic robots. The boss fights are just as generic as the robots. They're fairly simple to work out and just require you to rinse and repeat until they're over. Amazing Spider-Man is Beenox's first foray into the open world, and you can swing all around Manhattan should you so wish. Swinging is handled by the trigger. Simply hold it down and the game will handle the rest for you. You just have to steer. The newest and probably best feature is Web Rush. Hold the right bumper and you'll switch to first person and slow down time. This allows you to pick a point you want to travel to. Release the bumper and Spider-Man will fly off in that direction and attach himself to the platform you choose. You can also use this ability to attack enemies, interact with objects and collect comics, of which there are 700. Collecting the comics will unlock full comics in the extras menu, which include the first issue of Spider-Man, a nice little touch for Spidey fans. Outside of the main story, you have a few side missions to do. These include taking photos of random things, rescuing civilians from thugs, and chasing down bad people in cars. There's also a few race-style missions, and other ones where you're in control of a camera, and your aim is to keep it pointing at Spider-Man. These missions offer nice variety at the start, but they soon fall into the pit of repetitiveness. They try to mix it up by pitting you against more thugs or more cars, but this will do little to help keep your attention. The main enjoyment of the open world is just swinging around. The new Web Rush helps alleviate the problems of past Spider-Man games, and it's pretty much frustration-free for the most part. I'm sure some Spider-Man fans will have differing opinions on whether they want Spider-Man to web swing from thin air or attach to buildings. The Amazing Spider-Man game could work without the film. None of the actors from the film do the voice work, and you don't even see Peter Parker's face. You can't help but feel it would have been better with an extra 6 months of development and removal of the film tie-in, but Beenox have to work within the time restraints they're given. What they've made is a playable Spider-Man game. The open world web swinging works, but the indoor corridor sections feel a little bland. It's a decent Spider-Man game and a decent film adaptation. There's nothing overly wrong with it, but at the same time, there's nothing outstanding.